This is your dose of daily market wisdom with master trader Nick Santiago. Starting from humble beginnings, Nick has been beating the markets for over 2 decades. He shares with you his take on the profitable trades that will have you moving towards financial freedom in no time at all. To see an in-depth review of his track record and much more, go to inthemoneystocks.com.
It's finally here, thank goodness. My least favorite week of the month and week of the quarter, I should say. This is always a time where you get so many different whipsaw type moves taking place, and not only in individual names, but this time around even in the indexes. So it's been all over the map. It's a time where you have 4 different asset classes expiring this week, and that's why they call it quadruple witching options X. But yeah, it's over with today, and thank goodness. I'm happy to get rid of it.
Yeah. So what kind of weird anomalous movements have we had?
Well, we've had a lot of whipsaw in the NASDAQ in particular. That's been starting to go into a downtrend. But just the moves that you get intraday with the options expiration is pretty incredible. Sometimes you'll get these big sell-offs, and then all of a sudden you'll get these big rallies, and then they'll sell off again. So just a lot of game playing, but you see it in the individual names as well. A lot of tech names that were up in the stratosphere sold off this time around. Then you have some energy names that started to participate on the upside. You have some industrial names starting to participate on the upside that were beaten down. It's really been a pretty wild bag of tricks, but a lot of money rotation so far this week. And that's something this afternoon when the market closes, I'll be looking closer at. But it is really something when you get into options X. You see the popular names that everybody loves, the Apples, the Amazons, that people bought call options in for this expiration, and then they jumped in last week thinking these stocks were going to run. And what did they do? They sold off further. So it's a very, very tricky week, and that's why on here I always tell everybody, do not trade that near-term expiration. Give yourself 2-3 months of time. You have to do that in this kind of environment.
It's literally the tail wagging the dog, isn't it?
It really is. Well said. And that's exactly what happens. And, we talk about it every month on this show. The third Friday of every month is Options X. But this is a quarterly options X, and you really want to be careful when they come around.
Yeah. And as we've seen, pretty strange goings on there. So what's going on with the economy now? What is the market saying here?
Well, the market right now, I think the economy has definitely gotten better, and obviously as the other states that have been closed, the blue states, as they open up, things will get better there as well. So I don't think the problem is the economy. Just a lot of the good news is factored in. The markets have had a tremendous run. Now, a lot of that, majority of it's probably been supported by central bank intervention. Let's not say that they haven't participated and helped the markets go higher. I mean, they've really QE4 has been unprecedented as far as the amount of money they've printed. So again, we have to take that into account. But this week, we've definitely seen a little shaking out of the technology sector, and I've been saying, that was coming for a while. So we're definitely seeing that right now. We'll see today where technology closes. That'll tell me a lot more when we get these weekly chart patterns.
Hey, so what about Tesla? How's it looking for Options X?
Yeah, Tesla actually hung in there. Last week, the irony is Tesla topped out on September 1st, and it put a bottom in at the 50-day moving average when it hit that on September 8th. And a lot of people went short and bought puts. And what did Tesla do this week? It went up. So it went from a low of around $320, so let's call it $330, and now it's trading at around $442. So Tesla was down into Options X, and that popped, and you see these games all the time. But I ultimately think the Tesla upside should be limited here because that stock's going to need to put in some kind of consolidation. It's still very, very high on the chart now.
Yeah, that's for sure. I have a feeling they're going to be announcing an acquisition of a lithium producer shortly, a U.S. domestic lithium producer that has halted trading. Its shares have gone through the roof. There was a rumor of reprinted about it in Zero Hedge like a week and a half ago, and now that stock is zoomed. Maybe it's 2 weeks ago, 3, and that stock is zoomed higher, and now trading's been halted. So let's see what happens there.
Yeah, and don't forget, just to go back a little bit, talking about Options X, we saw this week that stock Nikola, which General Motors signed a big deal with. Then two research firms came out and basically put the kibosh on that stock, and that's just typical during Options X. So again, watch these options X games. But these, all of these EV stocks or electrical vehicle stocks have been very, very strong. Another one out there is Workhorse. Again, they've been really all the rage as of late. But again, all these things have their runs, and then you just watch those chart patterns. When they go parabolic, it tells you the run is almost over.
Yeah, and they all seem to go parabolic. If it's EV, they don't care about the traditional auto manufacturers. All they care about is, this one, they have a nice model. They have a nice drawing of it on their website. Let's buy into them, right?
Especially at this stage of the game, right? Everybody is just going, crazy over anything EV right now. So we're getting that EV euphoria, so to speak.
Yeah, EVphoria. I like it. That's something you see over and over again. That's a real pattern in the market and a real pattern of human behavior.
It is. And, as they say, nothing ever really changes in the market, to paraphrase the legendary Jesse Livermore.
Yeah, nothing ever changes. So precious metals, what are we looking at there?
So precious metals today, when we look at gold right now, we have gold futures looking a little bit higher, trading up 11.5 points to 1961. You have silver futures up 2 cents, not a big deal there, basically flat. And then you have gold miners today, the GDX. I'm going to use that ETF. That's just flat on the day as well, up a penny. So, a little quieter day for gold, but we'll see. Nothing really wrong when that happens. As long as it goes sideways and chops around, it's just building a base.
Yeah, and it's been doing that now. We're on our second month of this base now.
Yeah, and that's what you want to see. You went parabolic on the chart, and now what it's doing is it's really, there are a lot of time frames that we look at. I look at a daily chart, a weekly chart, a monthly chart, a quarterly, a yearly chart. But if you just look at the monthly chart, that's where the gold time frame went parabolic, and right now it's just putting in monthly consolidation. I mean, you can't ask for a better scenario than this for higher gold in the future.
Yeah, agreed. And I was listening to one interview, and a guy was saying, it could really break, and if it breaks past 1800, it could be in for some problems as far as gold goes.
I mean, there's always a possibility of that. I don't actually agree with that. I think right now the big support level on the chart for gold, and that's just a daily chart, would be around 1850 and 1800. If it did break there, then maybe you'll go test 1700. But I mean, there's so many support levels below now. It's really hard to see any kind of a major break. And I always tell my traders, I say, just watch these charts. Look at all of these patterns that have formed before before we are the current price level, and they'll tell you where the support lies. I mean, even if it went to 1750, people don't realize how much support is at 1750. You also have a rising 200-day moving average on the daily chart there. So you could come in a little bit, but the reality of it is, this is a very strong chart right now, and people don't really take into consideration the move that it has had in 2019 and 2020.
Yeah, and how long it's been in the dumps for. It made its prior high in 2011, and then since then had one little intermediate rally that fizzled in 2016, but it's pretty much been sideways to down all the way along.
Yeah, so you could make a case from 2016, July of 2016 to the low pivot in August of 2018. Gold was just putting in a sideways base with a slight higher low on the monthly chart. That's one of the most bullish patterns in the marketplace, and that's why we had that big surge. And then we had the big shakeout in March, obviously. March, everything got sold off because of margin calls of individual investors. They had to sell their gold holdings, but that created one of the best buying opportunities. I remember buying, gold in the March lows. I couldn't get in fast enough. And, here we are now up at 2000, and you're consolidating, pulling back to 1960 on gold futures. And, this is a very, very good chart pattern. I'd like to see it consolidate another 2-3 months, and then you'd see gold rally up to, 2,800 to 3,000 in a heartbeat.
All right. Well, then from your mouth to God's ears, and it doesn't really matter. The die has been cast, and we know you can only print so much money, and then it's going to pretty much do what it's going to do. And And we know that from history, and we might be real advanced and have all this technology, everything else, but, some things don't change. Anyways, that's it for this show and this week. Make sure you go take a look at Nick's site, inthemoneystocks.com. The Twitter feeds are at ITMS, at Nick Santiago01, at Kerry Lutz. Send us your emails, kl@kerrylutz.com. We'll talk to you next week, Nick.
Sounds good, Kerry. Have a great weekend.
And so concludes another episode of Daily Market Wisdom with Master Trader Nick Santiago. Be sure to go to his website, inthemoneystocks.com. Don't forget the Twitter feeds at ITMS and at Nick Santiago01.